P44, what's up, brother? Right. It's about that time. Let's see if this is going to work properly. I just spent the last 8 hours redoing the stream layout. It looks like it's working. I think things are happening. Yes. Awesome. So I was getting ready to cut the YouTube video for the Anthropic report about the AI super espionage activity that was really just a lot of crap, right? And I go through and I pull the video just like I've done for every other one from the live stream. I'm going to start editing it, trimming it up. And I notice the text looks like hot garbage. Like absolute hot garbage. So this is what it looked like here. I actually took screenshots to show you. So here's what it looked like. Look at that. Look at that absolute blurry trashiness right there. And it just looks terrible. It looked like crap. So then I went through and I spent 8 hours debugging this, trying to figure it out. Turned out it was a weird resizing artifact error in OBS. So now it looks like this. It's so crisp, so fresh, so clean. I love it. So one of the better things is now the delay between what happens on this screen and what happens in the actual streaming Nook is super small. It's down from about maybe 700 milliseconds to like maybe 100. So lots of improvements. Okay, this is not proper. Why is recon taking so long? All right, something ain't right. Hold on. I had the seed scan running to kind of kick everything off, but it no do. I don't know why it no do. Let's go see what's up here. Actually, let me do it over here. Oh, try hack me. You're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. Hey, Fallen, what's up, man? Happy Saturday. I'm actually surprised I'm not more tired because I thought I had an idea of how to fix this. I went through so many rounds of testing and re-recording and checking to fix this fuzziness issue that was happening. And then finally, I think I gave up at like 4 a.m. 3:30 in the morning, went to bed. And so I'm surprised I'm not more tired because my kids got me up at 7 this morning. So I did get a bit of a nap today, but one thing I remembered actually is when you're really sleep deprived, you can take a large dose of creatine and that will help. So I did that today and it actually worked really well. However, you also must remember that when you take large doses of creatine, you will be committing Geneva suggestions against the toilet when that happens. What is going on here? VPN's connected, but we can't reach our target. Let me try something real fast here. So our target is 1065. That ain't right. I just noticed it. So this is the route that's pointing to... This is going out the Ethernet. It's not going out ton 0. See that? So that would be why we can't reach it. So TryHackMe did just do a big update to their VPN setup. So maybe I need to go reset that. Well, let's go double check it real quick. And then we'll get into some HackBot building. The sponsor that's going to hook me up on the back end, and it's a quiet sponsorship. They're just basically doing me a solid. So that way I can use their Bedrock instance to run HackBot. So I won't have to be quite so conservative with it, but also I want it to be able to do that. However, the cool thing about that is it will host a ton of different models. So if we need to be able to go test it, and be like, okay, let's do some experiments and see which model maybe performs better, we could do that. And we could have the actual resources to do multiple iterations and compare them. I think I need to go to... I think it's in profile. No, it's in manage account. VPN settings. So so this is something new they just added. So the premium VPN routes traffic through a dedicated private network for the closest entry point, redundant latency. Your plan includes premium VPN routing, so all your VPN connections. All right, I guess I need to download that. I hope SOC is okay, because I just heard something go crashing in the kitchen. Here, hold on 1 second. So now we got to get the VPN config over meow. So let's SFTP over to it real fast. And I don't know where that thing even saved. Where did it save? Hang on 1 sec. Let me pop up OPSEC mode real quick, so I'm not just doxing everything on this system. Okay, so it should be in there. Okay. There we go. Now I've got it brought over. Let me turn that off. All right, let me get that set up. Let's see. What do we call it before? Yeah. So let's home, Debian. What was it called? I don't remember. Something OVPN, US East 1, that's it. Oh no, they put me on US East 1. All right, let's modify that. And then now let's connect over to it. There we go. So see, now it shows it's routing through ton 0. So that's why HackBot wasn't able to connect to anything, because it was trying to run it, but it wasn't being routed correctly. You're going to make me grab a whole new stash, aren't you? All right, let's get the test data. So one thing I'm thinking about doing, actually, after we finish the exploitation agent, is sometime during the week of basically Christmas, that week in there, I'm going to do a special daytime stream. Cody's going to come on, and we're going to try and answer a bunch of questions about Mythic and everything. So it'll be in the middle of the day, Central US time. And I wanted to try and make it as accessible to a lot of folks as possible, because I know this is late at night for most people. But he's going to come on, we're going to answer questions, and we'll start talking about the exploitation, the post-ex agent, how we're going to hook into Mythic. So one of the other things I was thinking about doing is, basically setting up a small text user interface that we could have up here that will hook in, and we can do certain tasks like this, like kicking off, hey, we're going to go run Stinger with the test data, and try to make it a little bit simpler in here. And also, right now, the way it's set up, anybody who's not using the Langsmith or LangGraph Studio is going to have a bit of a hard time getting it up and running. So I was like, let's kind of like back that off a bit. So try to make it a little bit easier for people to start tinkering and playing with. Another thing we'll be able to do too is then we can actually put in the human in the loop aspect, where when we have issues, rather than it just crashing out, we can actually have it forward over to a human interface node, and then we can interact with it through that text interface. All right, cool. Now it's running the seed run. So it already finished the in-map scan? What's the name on that? Did it show me? It is showing me. Okay, it's just not tracking on here. Invisus. Invisus Hellgate. Hey, thanks for coming online. Welcome in. I hope you are having a stupendous Saturday. All right, cool. So HackBot's running right now. What kind of output did we get? Let's just do a quick sanity check here. Post up. Did it actually... It's hard to read in the XML format. Oh, no, there we go. Yeah, it said like 22's open. Okay, cool. So it actually did do a legit in-map scan. It's not faking us out. And in fact, it's already moved on to the enumeration agent. Awesome. Oh, Tubop. What is this one? If I ever get the free time, I'll go through and I'll filter these out. Go find out which ones have vocals to them, because I just don't want those for the background music. Oh, that's weird. Oh, exploitation agent died, which is actually kind of... We had a key error for working memory? That's not right. Well, let me collapse this down. Where did we leave off in the exploitation agent? Did I leave myself a to-do in here? Where did it come back with this? Let's go take a look. I mean, we expect the exploitation agent to kind of die, but we also made a bunch of updates to it in here. Oh, the exploit step revisor said it couldn't access the working memory? Hold on, that's weird because we added the working memory over to the state configuration. That's really weird. Hold on, so where's the... This came down from the reviser node. So let's go find the exploit reviser. There's our planner. Oh wait, here was the actual note I left in here. Hey, Mars, what's up? Good evening. Let's see. Did this actually say which line this occurred on? Let's see, line 355, the working memory reference. I need to remember this, though, so we do have to go fix this. Actually, I think I might have already kind of fixed that. I'll have to revisit it. But let's see, where is it trying to access the working memory? It's also that showed up actually in the Japanese kanji on there. That's awesome. Hey, Mars, thanks for coming online. Welcome in. I hope you're... Actually, for you, it's probably Sunday already, so I hope you're having a great Sunday. All right, so line 355. Yeah, this should be no problem. Why is it saying it can't access the working memory? There should be nothing in the working memory right now. Oh, maybe that's why, because it's trying to read a null value in here. But that's it. Oh, you're in Taiwan? Cool, man. Oh, so that is not Japanese, and that is Chinese. I apologize. I'm trying. I try to spot the difference. Sometimes I can, and honestly, sometimes I cannot. But that's awesome. Taiwan, wow. That's so cool. Hold on, let's come down here to this real quick. Let's go inspect the state table. So output was nothing. Hold on, why was there no working memory on the input? That's weird, hold on. I don't actually see... Let's just double check all the keys. So we should see context. So there's our context. We see current task, so that's in there. We do see task. We see host and persistent hosts. Oh, sorry, that should be persistent tools. So there's our host, there's our persistence tools. So next, working memory and long-term memory are completely missing from this. Now, why is that? That's very weird. Hey, Kaiju, what's up, man? Very interested in penetration testing. Well, that's what I do for a living. I've been doing that for 7 years now. Almost 8 years. Getting very close to 8 years. And I've been in IT for, professionally for 15 years. I've been breaking computers pretty much since the 2nd grade. Oh, what is this, Tubob? Man. So one of the viewers, his name's Tubob, he made all of these songs. Not every song for the background, but his now actually makes up the bulk of it because he has just such a huge library. So big that I did not have time to like go check and see which ones would be awesome. And which ones might be a little bit weird for background music. And so as they come up, I make a list to go remove those particular songs. Not that they're bad songs, they're just not ideal for background music. There was another one there I just had to skip. One sec. And you might be wondering, like, hey, Mr. like supercomputer guy, why are you writing this on a literal post-it note? And it's because the post-it notes get annoying on my desk, so I can't ignore them. If I put them in a text file, I can very easily ignore it. Dude, Mars, so was I, man. I just a lot of the experience comes from learning the actual. I usually encourage people to learn the actual system administration side and like what's possible, and then go to the security side on top of that. Because if you think about it, security is pretty much it's an overlay of the base system, right? So for example, you take Windows, you understand how the various components of the Windows operating system work, and then they're not all secure or have built-in security measures by default. So then the security part overlays that knowledge in there. And that's just one small example. It's pretty much for everything, every piece of technology. All right, so why was the working memory not showing up here? Let me check something real quick. Let's come over to... Let's look at the output from the Stinger agent down here and see what the state table looked like. So here's where it started off. We hit the Stinger agent. Why is it looking like this real quick? Let's see. Actually, if we look at Recon's input, it should kind of show us here. Because it should be everything that came into this one. So why are those other fields just not showing up in here? Is it because they're blank? Alright, basic materials gotta go. Okay, I gotta cut that song too. In fact, it's already on the list. See what I mean? It's like, I need to go clean it up. You've already learned a lot from the Try Hack Me premium intro courses. That's cool, man. You don't need human interactions to break Windows these days. It does it on its own. Dude, you're not joking, man. They got... What was he? Was he a VP? Somebody from Microsoft went and put out a tweet that said, hey, we're making everything agentic now inside of Windows. And it's a huge security flaw, but we're going to push it to your computer anyway. It's just not enabled by default. I'm like, bro. They got flamed so hard off of Twitter for that. It was hilarious. Maybe we should just go and I tell you what, let's go do something real fast here. So what's happened here is I don't see when we go into the exploit step revisor. Let's go actually find the specific area where this died. So right, so we go into the exploit step revisor. We come to the input here. Claps down these messages. Okay. So what I'm looking at is I see like, hey, all the fields that I'm expecting in here, but there's fields in here I'm not seeing, right? So do we see context? So yeah, we see context. In fact, it looks like it's put these in, they're not even in alphabetical order. I don't know where the order of these comes in, but anyway, do see context. We do see the next field. Do we see the current task field? I don't see messages, but messages is actually kind of hidden up here. That's abstracted away. I do see host, I see task, current task, we see that. Context, don't see persistence tools, maybe because there's nothing in there. I think it's just abstracting and hiding it away in here. I'm going to look at the raw input here. And oh, you're killing me. All right. We'll do some inertial scrolling here. Let me see if I can... I'm going to copy this whole thing out. Come on, man. Just let me... Okay, so the fact that I can't right-click and copy this is like a big pain. Copy. Let me close that up. All right, so do I see... So working memory isn't even showing up in here. What about the long-term memory? So nothing underscore memory is showing up. It's so weird. So my job is a backend engineer, and I'd like to choose the resources to start learning. So if you've been so when you say you're a backend engineer, have you been working on like developing server-side components, or are you part of the team that maintains those servers? What are some of the day-to-day tasks that you do? And I can try and give you some advice on how to begin building on that and then working outwards from there. So think of it like you have a strong foundation of knowledge, right? So it makes the most sense to start understanding all the security implications in that area. And then from there, you can actually start spreading outward afterwards. Okay, I think that is part of the problem in here. So those are valid fields to use. It's just I don't think they're being used right now. So working memory and long-term memory. So what's happening here? I think this is what's happening, is that we're trying to break out whatever the working memory is from the working memory right here. But because the working memory is blank, it's actually not getting initialized. So I want to make a small change to this. So if we come look at the graph here, if we look at the exploitation agent here, where everything flows through load pickle. So what we could do is, if we wanted to kind of work on this, well, actually probably down here in the exploitation agent when it hits it. Is that the best way to do this? We could do a try catch here in the exploit agent. We can have it try to read the working memory and then break it out. And if there's no working memory, then do it. Because eventually we will hit exploitation agent again, right, in this loop. Let me bring this stuff over. So what's going to happen here is this will eventually kind of come back to here. So let's do that real quick. Let's go find the exploitation agent. So here's our exploit agent. We still got to have that to do, fixing what happens on, say, a successful exploit attempt. Let's do this. So let's do a try. Actually, I don't even remember how to format a try-catch block because we haven't needed them. Let's see. Python try-catch. Okay, so it is just tricolon. All right. Getting all my syntaxes mixed up here. All right, so what I wanted to try is we're going to say, we'll say same thing we just did below. So working memory is, which is going to be a string, and then that we're going to pull that out of the state table. Just like that. So we're going to try that. If we have an exception, then what we're going to do is we're going to set the working memory to nothing. So then we'll do an except. And if that's the case, then what we'll do is we're going to say working memory as a string is going to be equal to, we'll just do exploit agent. Just like that. In fact, hold on. We're going to actually do it a little bit like some markdown in here. Too broad an exception clause? Oh, get out of here. It's fine. All right, if I wanted to really be particular about it, what we could do is actually go find the actual error in here, which would be a key error in here. So where would this come from? This would be... what is it to catch the particular error? I forget what it is. Yeah, it's a key error in here. So what we do is we would say except key error. There we go. Okay, cool. So now what happens is whenever we're going through the flow here, when we hit the exploitation agent, if there is no working memory, right, which would mean there's nothing in the state table, if my theory is correct, then we are going to initialize that with exploitation agent right here. Right? We're just going to say we're going to put that in here. We'll call this the actually we'll call it exploit graph like this, so we know where it lives. All right. So once that hot loads in, which it looks like it did, well, we'll go ahead and rerun this. So now let's rerun the exploitation agent. And we'll know if this fails immediately because once it gets down to the revisor, it should just die. Hey, Hydrogen, what's up, man? Continue. I'm having a pretty decent day. So, hang on. Let me see. Oh, I don't have a copy of the picture here, do I? I don't. But basically, what Sock and I went through and did last night, dude, it's still doing it. Key error on working memory. All right, hold on. Let's go see what happened here with this. So when we started this, the exploitation agent, oh, you know why? Because I'm an idiot. That's why. We didn't emit the working memory back to the state table. So we have it here, but what we do inside this function, which is all the node code, all the code for the node, doesn't do anything. So what we have to do is whenever we do the return, we actually need to come down here and put that into the return statement. So in this case, nothing was there. We're going to pass to Stinger. That's fine. We don't need it there. Here, we do need this one, though. So what we'll do is we're going to emit, we're going to return working memory, and then we'll say that's just going to be working memory, like that. Boop. So everywhere we have a return statement, that's what we're going to need to put in there. So I believe it's just those ones. Nope, those are just kind of error catchers. Here's another one. So we'll need to throw it into here. Okay, that should do it. Let's go try this again. Take it from the top, Benny. I'm actually going to turn this one off. I don't care about interrupting after that. Well, actually, I'll tell you what. Let me double check something real quick. So after the exploit planner happens, let's see what steps it actually came back with. Default render. Here we go. All right. So obtain the web shell artifact, upload to the upload form, upload the PHP web shell, access it in the uploads directory, execute a test command to verify command execution. Okay. So it looks like it was doing okay with this. Perfect. I feel like that was just an expanding brain moment. Dude, all I have is expanding brain moments. It's really easy, too, when your brain's the size of a peanut, right? I am by no means any kind of, like, hyper-intelligent, super godly hacker man. No. I'm just a fool. A fool who's falling in love with all of you. Yeah, peanut to, like, the center of the avocado. Exactly. I hate when I get the avocados and it's just like a thin shell of avocado and a giant pit in the middle. That's so annoying. All right, let's run this again. We'll let it go all the way through after the revisor. Yeah, we'll let this run. Okay, it looks like it may have actually worked now. So let's just let it continue. All right, continue. All right, so that's a key thing we'll need to be aware of, that if we don't have that in the state table, it's a valid field, but not necessarily valid to be passed off to it. All right, so what did it do now? Let's look at the next step here. Oh, so it called this browser. So it created a special browser agent and then ran through it from there. All right, continue. Hey, Pack, what's up, man? Well, find out a little bit more about how LangGraph handles its state table data, because I was getting a weird error where it's basically saying, "Hey, I can't read something from the state table," even though if we can look over here, the value, it was this working memory value, and it was something we just added in the last stream, so last Sunday. I was like, it's here. It's in this field here. Why is it not being done? And it was because nothing was written to it yet. So technically that field didn't exist. So one thing we'll have to do is as we come into these agents, basically whenever we hit the entry point to them, we'll check to see if there's any working memory, which there shouldn't be. Actually, once it hits this guy right here, there shouldn't be any. Yeah, I think, in fact, that's probably, I need to go make an update to that now that I think about it. Because the working memory, we actually defined as only for internal to primary agents. So this is a primary agent here. So that working memory should only be applicable in here. And then it should basically be emptied out. So that's actually a small change I need to go make up here. Because one thing we want to do is we're going to try this. We're going to try reading the working memory from the state table. So you inspired me the other night to work on my sysadmin skills, decided I wanted to build a domain with a domain controller, nice, SCCM server and a couple other clients. So we use SCCM, but if I need to set up stuff to be able to understand how it all works. Oh, dude, SCCM has its legacy, don't get me wrong, right? Because I don't see a lot of companies deploying it new, but if they've already got it, they're going to stick with it, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So understanding that, and also all the various configuration options you've got, because you can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. However, there are security implications that come with that too. So a really cool tool that is out there for that. Let me see where it's at. SCCM Hunter. I think that's the tool. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, check this out, Pack. So SCCM Hunter is a tool to come in and kind of explain all the various security problems that can happen with SCCM configurations. And I believe he's got... Does he have it broken out here? No, this is actually just for gathering the information. Where did they put that in here? There is... Where was it? This helps you get a lot of information. Hold on, maybe it is in the wiki and I just don't, I'm not realizing it. SMB. Let's see. Admin module. No, this is just the data collection tool. I'll have to go find the actual reference to it. You might look for blog posts from Garrett, who wrote SCCM Hunter here, Garrett Foster. And there's a whole slew of escalation paths for SCCM. Actually, hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Because I remember one of them offhand. SCCM Cred 1. Ah, here it is. This is what I was trying to remember. Yeah, yes. Misconfiguration Manager. Here we go. Let me drop this over here. So Misconfiguration Manager is a collection of all these interesting system misconfigurations. And this is what I'd like to talk about. Whenever somebody's learning about system administration, there's a lot of things that you might do to help work things along, and they seem innocuous, but they open a security hole. And it may not be a critical one, but it does open a little bit of hole. Sometimes it does open a critical one. Sometimes it's just vulnerable by default out of the box. It tries to be so auto-magical helpful that the thing is just an attacker's wet dream. So this is a really awesome project, Misconfiguration Manager, that goes through and says, okay, here's how you can do all these various attacks, particularly against SCCM. Since that's the configuration manager, this is the Misconfiguration Manager. But really cool repository in here. All right, where did we leave off? I think it was doing fine. Hold on. Let me just let it continue this run here. Oh, good. It chose something like PHTML. Nice. Hey, no problem, Pack. I got you, boo. All right, let's see what's the current state of everything as we're running through here. So it looks like it tried to do, if we come back to the next step here, I like having this breakpoint set right here in the step revisor because it's kind of like the end of the loop. And then we basically, by breaking after it, we can see what happened during each step execution. So it breaks it down into nice little nuggets for us. But what happened here is it brings up the special browser agent, goes through and does all of its things, and we can just look at what happens when it does the summarization at the end. And so for the summarization here, we scroll all the way to the bottom. It does a pretty good job at summarizing, right? So I attempted to upload the web shell. We did this. We got met with PHP not allowed, or não é permitido in Portuguese, and that's to be expected. So then the reviser should come back and say, all right, here's how we error correct for this. And so we're going to say, okay, that is sub-ideal, but I don't know how to tell it that this is not good. I guess it worked. So what we did is we've given this instruction to say, when you make a revision, it cannot be a compound statement. That means no ands, no ors. It needs to be an atomic singular statement in here. So in this case, it did say rename the PHP web shell to use an alternative extension, and it did give examples. So it's not technically wrong because it's not a compound statement. However, it is just kind of throwing everything out here. I do find it funny that it did it this way. And so this would explain why it immediately jumped to PHTML, which is fine. PHP 5 is what we used when we were testing this out initially. But that's funny. I was like, I just wanted to see what all the steps were here. So the next one should just be real simple. It's going to go rename the file. It should rename the web shell to .phtml. Should be good there. And then now it should try the re-upload. Now, this is a bit of a contrived example also, because since this is the base example, that's the one we're using to kind of tune the system prompt, right? So we have examples in there that are very close to what a web shell exploit would look like in the prompt. So we'll call those one-shots. I tried to add other additional things into there, so it's not just, hey, we're letting it cheat by giving it the answer in the system prompt, but we are definitely helping it along. All right, so now let's go see what happened. Wait, didn't you already rename the file? You failed on it, didn't you, reviser? You failed on your own instruction, didn't you? Hold on. What is it doing here? Oh, did it not? Okay, so here's where it said not permitted. Reviser should come back and say it failed. Oh, here's what happened. It didn't insert the step. So this was bad for it to do. If it needs to rename it, and it should have done an insert step. So this is going to fail out instantly. Okay. Well, that's a bummer. Hang on one sec, guys. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. All right, I'm gonna kill this one for now because I don't want it to. Actually, I will just. The problem is, what's happened here without doing the insert step, right here. It has overwritten this state table, right? So now the upload function is gone. I don't know. Let's go see what happens here. So it fails it, doesn't detect early RCE, and the insert step is false. So now, let's come to this one real quick. So it comes back and it renames the file. And then what does the revisor say? So the task was rename. Oh, is that? Oh, yeah. I just realized that. So it actually, the revisor did have a problem with this. Look at this. Hold on. So when it changed the task here, it actually, this is incorrect because it had an and in here. And upload it. Man, revisor, why you got to do this? Why you got to do me dirty like this? Let's see, there's our exploits prompt template. Ooh, this is a nice one too, Bob. Opus orb, I like that. All right, hold on, let's look at our instructions here for this template here. Task should never be, let's see. Oh, instead of this, I think we should probably change that from task to revisions. Because what's the field we actually call it in here? We actually call it the revision. So task should never be compound instructions. So let's change this word. Revisions. They should never be compound instructions. See below. Boom. Let's go back here and let's add on to this a wee bit. So what we'll do is we're going to say, let's see. What I want to tell it is, I want to tell it to think about, without using the word thinking, but basically, I'm trying to get to have a better way to bind this into, instead of an or statement, it should be do this and then this. So how could we create those instructions here? So revisions should never be compound instructions. See below examples. We give it a whole bunch of, this is called like an end shot, or we're giving it lots of examples on which to follow and key off of. Let's see. Well, actually, what we could tell is if, actually, where did we actually told it where the insert step should happen here. So if the correction step, actually, let's change this word too, because we want it to key on these words in here. Because if you think about how these language models work, what they're doing is they're keying on words in a giant multi-dimensional vector space. And so these words exist in there, and then their relationship to other words are mathematical constructs. So synonyms are a thing, and it's got trained into it ways to handle those synonyms. However, if you can get as precise a language as possible, you can narrow it down to getting much closer in that hyperdimensional space. So we say, instead of the correction steps, we say if the revision needs to occur before the current task, set the insert step as true. So one example we could say here is, let's see. Let me move this one down, actually. And let's change this. Instead of revised, we're going to say revisions. Revision should be a single atomic instruction. Oh, I misspelled atomic. So it should be a single atomic instruction. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to teach a hyper intelligent 4-year-old, one that's super literal and almost super lawyeristic, but also has taken a hit of some hallucinogen and is making up stuff or losing context of things, right? That's what it's like when you're working with these language models. So the revision should be a single atomic statement. We'll just say that. Revision should never be compound instructions. Yeah, should never be a compound instruction. See below. We give it examples. All right. Hopefully that will actually be enough of a revision to kind of clear it up in here. By just keying on those words. It doesn't happen very often where it does that, but what happens when it does is it comes back up here and invariably kind of pollutes the loop. So there is error correction where eventually it will error out, come back up to the exploitation agent. The exploitation agent should look at it and say, okay, here's where you messed up. Go attempt it again. And then the exploit planner will make a new plan with the input from the exploit agent. And then the processor will look at all the previous context and try and develop a new, basically execute a new plan. Sorry, the planner will look at all the previous context and then kind of solidify the plan in here and send it to it. So that'd be easy to go check. However, I'm almost out of Anthropic tokens. I have like $25 left. Not bad considering I think the first commit to the GitHub repo was in March. We're now in November. So in 9 months, it's cost $75 to do the testing. Not bad at all. We're averaging less than $10 a month. However, most of the spending has happened since we've been on the exploitation agent because this is where a lot of data is being sent through it. So I'm trying to keep it slim for now until I get my new backers helping me out and sending me some extra, basically, compute power for this. So what I want to do is let's go spin up a new thread here. And let's come down to we're just going to run it from scratch. Hey, Tiger, what's up, man? Happy Saturday, dude. I'm so happy that the stream is looking crispy now. It's looking sharp. I didn't realize what was happening. So it took me a while of debugging it and trying to understand it to see what was happening. And what happened is I capture actually a 2K portion of this screen. So this is an ultra wide screen. I capture a 2560 by 1440 section and then broadcast that up. Now the problem was the canvas in OBS was 1080p. So there was a lot of downsizing and weirdness happening. So what actually ended up fixing the issue is I switched streaming technologies. I switched to NDI instead of trying to use SRT. And so far it's working pretty good. So I'll probably stick to NDI for now. And then on top of that, the base canvas in OBS, I stretched it out to 2K. And then once everything is fully rendered, before it actually sends out the stream, then it compresses it to 1080p. So it's just a one-time de-resolution that happens. Happy Catterday. Catterday. Let me see if I can find something real fast. Hold on. While this is running, let me pop into OPSEC mode. Here we go. This was a meme I had sent to a buddy of mine who fosters cats all the time. I was like, the genie might have misunderstood his wish, but not yours. Cypher, I'm not even pooping, dude. I'm sitting right here. What's up, man? Yeah, I got a company that's going to provide me access to a Bedrock instance where I can then do all the language model calls to Bedrock instead of directly to Anthropic. So that'll do two things. It'll do a couple things. One is, hopefully, we shouldn't hit the overload issue. We've already got error corrections built into HackBot for those overloads, but it should hopefully reduce that contention. OPSEC mode is, dude, look, the camera's still here. I'm still here. Do you see how many fingers I'm holding up? 1, 2, 3. I'm still here. Oh, but yeah. So Ty, whenever they're providing that access, currently I had $100 that I threw into Anthropic for backend processing costs, right? And we've been doing fine with that. However, I'm getting towards the end of that. When they provide me this access, which we're working on how to work it out to do it securely and everything. But once that's set up, I'll have $100 every month. So basically as year to date from when I started working on this, I'll have 9x more compute ability than I used to. So that's awesome. It's not a real stream if you're not questioning your bowel movements. So actually, I was telling everybody before y'all hopped on that I went to bed at 4 a.m. because I was troubleshooting this issue with the live stream, and the text was getting compressed and decompressed, and it was causing it to look all fuzzy on the screen, and I hated it. So I was up till 4 in the morning working on that. The kids were very generous, and they let me sleep in until 7 a.m. So I only had about 3 hours of sleep, and so I remembered an old trick, which is if you're having trouble, like if you're sleep deprived, creatine, a big dose of creatine can actually help with that. So I took a large dose of creatine this morning, and actually I was feeling pretty good. I still managed to go catch about a 2-hour nap, which was awesome. But I remember that. However, the downside is if you go take a large dose of creatine, you will be committing Geneva suggestions against that toilet bowl. Oh yeah. Not sponsored by Jocko yet, which is funny because now I disappear. All right, so what do we do next here? So it renamed the file. So the upload failed, it renamed. Let's keep going through this. All right, so what was the step? So now it should have tried to re-upload it. Let's go figure out what happened. Oh, why are we renaming the file again? You sweet, simple child. All right, so here's where the upload failed. Let's go double check and make sure that's what happened. We should have gotten a PHP not permitted. Let's see. Yep, PHP not permitted. So what did the reviser come back with? The reviser probably came back with something dumb. So it did not do an insert step. Rename the PHP web shell to use a bypass extension upload like this or PHTML to upload it. Okay. So it's still doing a double extension here. And the only way I can think to fix this is to add another language model call. I was like, hold on, let's check the system prompt real quick. So this is using our new system prompt right here, right? Because we're using the keyword revisions. We went and changed like instructions and tasks for everything to the actual revisions field in here, right? So revisions should be this. So rename the file to bypass upload instructions. Okay. Thought about the specifics of your model yet? For which model? Like for the language model? Because I haven't had any plans to go train my own. That's a big, huge step. And honestly, you need a lot of well-prepared data to go train your own model. Oh, for Bedrock? Well, Claude 3.7, I'm pretty sure is still available on Bedrock. So Anthropic might be deprecating it, but I'm willing to bet AWS is going to keep it running. So for now, we'll probably stick to Claude 3.7. This is the one that we've been working with. And chances are that if we have it working with 3.7, 4.5 should have better intelligence and processing. Therefore, we should have an easier time if it works with 3.7 working with 4.5. So until I had the Stinger agent complete, right? If we well, I don't want to navigate off this because I don't want to bust it up. But let's go see what it did here. So it did a compound statement which jacked everything up. So what was the revision here? So also it did not insert the step here. Okay. I don't want to just flat out tell it. So tasks may contain placeholders like filename.php. These should be considered, not be considered hard requirements for completion. What else did we say validated in here? Let's look at one other thing. There's one other thing we can actually bind this to. So when we make this tool call, we actually, so what we're doing is we're basically making a tool call and we're having it, instead of returning something that's going to be like a function primitive back to us that we can then pass to an actual function in the code and run, we're basically getting a JSON chunk back, right? So how do we structure this? So we said the status of the exploit step, validate if successful, failed if unsuccessful, revision. The revised version of the task adjusted for previous errors, leave blank if the status is validated, that's fine. True if the revision should be executed prior to the current step. So we have two options here. We can either put this over in... So for some reason, all of a sudden now, it's lost its damn mind and decided that re-uploading to bypass the upload restriction shouldn't be an inserted step. I spent like 3 hours on the phone educating my buddy on the Claude hack and some details. Nice. So that was actually when I found out that the stream, because this is a new streaming setup with the multi-computer setup here. So everything, all the work is isolated onto the desktop, but the actual streaming is happening from an AMD NUC that's sitting off to my side over here. And that was when I realized what the problem was, because I pulled the recording from the NUC. I was going to cut it for a YouTube video, and all the text was fuzzy. It was legible, but it was not comfortable to read. And I'm like, what is going on here? That's what sent me down the 8-hour rabbit hole last night. I'm not doing tune cipher. If you're going to do that, you might as well do variables separated by commas. I hear that's the new hotness. Hack the planet! Hack the planet! I'm not comfortable with the level of weird we're not achieving here yet, right? Dude, okay, so hold on. Let me see if I can find something real quick. Hang on. For anybody who doesn't know, this is how bad the AI slop has gotten. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on. So the actual person who posted this is a frequent poster on the Twitters, and so it's a lot to scroll through. Hang on one second. Yep, here it is. So here's what happened. So let's go through this kind of in order here. So this guy, he I don't know, Hisam? I don't know, but he was constantly posting stuff. So he's like, guys at LinkedIn are pretty serious about this JSON replacement. It's like, where did this idea for tune even come from? Token object, what did he say? It was token-oriented object notation. And it's like, look at all this wasted space with JSON and look at tune. So one of my favorite shit posters then comes in. Solstice comes in and it's like, okay, I've invented a novel object notation that provides an additional 71% token savings over JSON and 59% over Tune. We're going to call it variables separated by commas, patent pending. And you look at the image here, and if you spent any amount of time in computer science, you know exactly what this is. You know exactly what this is. So then what happens? Then all the AI slop over on LinkedIn picks it up and it's like, VSC is the fucking best thing ever! When VSC shines, the schema's fixed and known on both sides. The data's flat, uniform, and tabular. You want maximum speed and minimum cost. Deterministic outputs matter. They legit took this and ran with it. Slop in, slop out. That was the joke, Fallon, is that VSC was just CSV backwards. And so, like I said, Solstice is one of my absolute favorite shit posters on X. Wait, what the heck just happened? Oh, Chris, dude, thank you for the 10 gifted subs, man. 10 gifted shells. He's an initial access broker. And why are these alerts not showing up in here? These should be showing up in here. I don't get it. So we're using Tune then? No, we're not using Tune then. No. Where was the post made though? The post was literally made here on X, Crystal, right? This was the one. And Solstice made it clowning on this idea of Tune. I don't know where Tune originated from. It wasn't from Hisam here. But this was the thing that was floating around everywhere. It's like everybody's like, oh my god, Zors, Tune! Tune! And then so what does Solstice do? It's like, oh yeah, I've created values separated by commas. It's okay, Peaches. I'm not panicking. Don't pull my headphones out. Peaches heard me like getting loud. She's like, are you okay? Do you need comfort, pets? She's a sweet dog. And then what happens? They just run with it, and the freaking LinkedIn slop goes full bore. Do you need to go outside? Is that what you're doing? You have the worst timing, Peaches. The worst timing. Dude, these people are unhinged, Cypher. Hang on one second, guys. Let me go let Peaches out real quick. Be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm not pooping. Peaches is pooping. God, this was so dumb. I can't believe how dumb this was. Values separated by commas. That whole thing. Hey, Peer Factor, thanks for coming online. Thank you so much. Welcome in. I hope you're having a silly Saturday like we're having, clowning on the AI slop. As I sit here and I write AI slop. So I don't know why, for some reason, Claude gets its panties in a twist and decides that it wants to just start racking these things out, even though we've given it so many explicit instructions saying compound statement bad. So in this case, this is bad. In fact, I'm going to use this as a bad example. I'm just going to keep adding bad examples in here. You're stupid. Let's see. Well, I'm gonna put another one in here. I'm gonna keep telling you how dumb you are every time. Bad example. Compound or and statement. And I'm gonna put your literal words in here and make you eat them. Next, I'm gonna rename it a little bit. Let's see. Rename the file to use a bypass extension like XXX or YYY and upload it. And apparently I can't type for crap. What is going on here? I blame the keyboard. This is not a user error. This is a keyboard error. Compound and or statement. There we go. Okay. I'm going to try this again. There we go. Got it. Do you have a harness just for that node, the one that produces the undesirable results? Don't have a harness for it because we're using LangGraph, and LangGraph doesn't, as far as I understand, doesn't really have the idea of like a harness. But what happens here is each of these functions as we define them. So for example, this is the exploit agent function. It takes in the state table. It does stuff, makes language model calls or other just deterministic processing. And then it emits whatever changes, or it returns whatever changes need to be made to the state table. LangGraph merges those changes in and then goes about its way. So we do have a place in here for it, but the prompts over here are kind of where everything happens. So the only other way I could think to do this is to have Reviser revise its own stuff. Basically come back and say, check the validity of this against these criteria. And if they don't work, then come up with something new. Time to invent Peon, Python-inspired object notation. It looks just like JSON, but in Python. Since we're reinventing the wheel with with VSC. Dude, don't put that out into the cosmos because some galaxy brain's gonna do it. Let me skip this one. Good with pie. All right, there's another one I got to cut from the background music. Good with pie. Tubob has such a huge collection of these. There was no way. It would take me an entire day to try to filter through them. Let's see. So we have a bunch of good examples. Maybe the problem is... So we have some in here for like, hey, rename the file to this. This is a bad example because it's a compound or statement. This one's a bad example because it's a compound and or statement. Or an or and statement. So maybe I need to give it one more where it's like this. Oh no, we're gonna try it. We'll do it again. But what I was saying earlier is, before we got off onto the VSC stuff, is sometimes Claude just gets its absolute panties, and this is Claude 3.7, right? This is not the newest, latest, greatest model. Sometimes it just gets its panties in a twist and does not want to follow any of the instructions in here and just completely says, bleh. Have I tried the revisor pattern? I mean, that's kind of what we're doing, but it's a very simple revisor. So what happens here is the exploitation agent. This is the entire exploit graph. This agent actually takes down instructions from the supervisor, looks at all the data that's been collected, and suggests a way to potentially exploit the target. The exploit step planner goes through and makes a list of all the steps to do the exploitation. It keeps it very simple. And then the step processor comes through here and decides to either make a tool call or hand it off to a special agent. Once that comes back, that information is captured and updated into the state table. And then the revisor looks at it and says, okay, did we achieve the objective? If not, what can we do to make it better? And it has the option to do what's called an insert step, where it basically says, okay, the step here was to upload a file, but the file's being blocked because of the extension. So the revision is we need to rename the file, but it needs to be an insert step and happen first. So we still want to keep the original upload instruction. However, we want to insert a new instruction above it that says rename the file, basically to bypass the upload restriction. And so we only have like the one revision in here. There is some information a buddy sent me about agentic patterns, design patterns. I probably should go read through that. Right now, I'm more interested in thinking through the process and getting it going. Once this entire thing is done, here, let me bring up the parent graph. So this is the actual supervisor here, Stinger. So it runs through recon, enumeration, exploitation. There's a fourth agent we haven't built yet over here that'll be called post-exploitation. And as it runs through these, it's basically going to come back up to Stinger and say, okay, here's what I want to do next. This is actually not correct. This should be back up to here, but whatever. So it does kind of work this, but once I get the post-exploitation agent done, which is going to be a heavy lift, it's going to be the most complex one because we're going to integrate it into Mythic C2. So it'll be able to do things with it, but we're going to do that as a special agent. So we don't necessarily have to do everything through Mythic. If somebody wants to go write a Sliver special agent, then in theory, we could do everything through Sliver. But anyway, I'm going to do Mythic because I like Mythic. As it comes through here, once this is done, it should kind of come back up to Stinger. Right now, Stinger is very dumb and doesn't do any language model calls whatsoever. It's just purely a task shuffler, and it's all deterministic code. So once we get through with Stinger, we're going to pause everything and go back and basically look at everything that's been done up to that point and do like a massive overhaul of the system. And agentic redesign will probably be one of those. Because, for example, the recon agent here, recon does the kind of the exact same thing with the validator pattern here. It comes through, tries to run it, sees if it gets the proper information. If it validates, then it goes back up to the agent. And if it doesn't, if the agent realizes that it doesn't work, then it goes back over to the tool call, makes another one in this loop here. But this is identical basically to the enumeration agent. See that? They're identical structures in here. So this agent type, once we get it kind of worked out, will probably be extracted into its own place. And then recon and enumeration will be basically just specialized instances of that same agent in there. So what I do if a node doesn't get stable results is I reduce the complexity of the instructions by splitting the node into two. That might be what we need to do. And actually, that was what I was just considering, because over here in the exploit agent, we have the revisor here, which the revisor should be probably actually renamed maybe to validator, and then put the validator in here, but then the revisor up here, and give them both the ability to make changes to that step table. And that's where we could actually use something like the working memory that we just put into the state table. Like, okay, cool, go throw this into the working memory and then read it and then see if you need to make it updates to it. So I was actually just considering that. It actually works most of the time. And the error correction for this loop should work. Eventually, it's going to bail out of this loop and it will come back up to the exploit agent and then make a exploit agent will basically come through, look at all the data again and make a new revision and kick off this loop again in here. And so it will attempt to do that up to 3 times in here. So this loop can go through 5 times, I think. I think that's what I set it to. And if it fails on any particular step more than 5 times, then it bails out and goes back up to the exploit agent. And I believe the exploit agent, this loop can actually execute 3 times. So it will try 3 separate attempts to go through and actually exploit the target when it does this. But I was actually just thinking about that. Should this have been split out into 2 separate nodes here? So another thing I'll do is I'll provide a custom eval for each node. So it acts like a harness and simulates any number of inputs. I haven't tried anything quite as complicated as what you're doing with the revisor pattern. It's very cool. Thanks, man. I am literally not a developer. I'm a penetration tester and a red teamer. I've been doing that for 7 years. So this project served a couple of purposes. One, I wanted to learn more about what would a developer kind of look at when they're developing agentic systems. 2 is I'm not very good at programming. Modifying and reading and hacking on code, yes, I've done that a lot in dozens of languages, but not really building something from scratch. So I wanted to do that. And the other thing is I wanted to have a place where I could make something that was reusable for the future. So that was the entire reason the special agents came about. So the special agents, also I need to go do a rewrite of the browser agent, which is the only special agent we have right now. And it gives it a full Playwright Chrome browser that it could work with. But it's very brute force, it's very chunky, it's not streamlined at all. Plus, actually what I wanted to do was add a feature into it where you could call the special agent as a completely standalone system outside of the graph and let it execute and do its own thing. So you could have it like a chat mode with it. I thought that would be really, really cool. So that's another thing. The structure of the special agents is very nebulous right now and how it works. Basically, you emit some information back or you expose it as part of like the Python module. And then Stinger goes in, looks for all those, looks for an agents.py and then imports that. And then that way it knows how to link where everything goes. However, there's other stuff I want to go add over to it. So this is going to be a very long-term project, especially since I only work on it on Saturday and Sunday for like 3 hours a night. So 6 hours a week of dev time is usually all this gets. Drewski, what's up, brother? Oh, you sent a YouTube short? Hang on. Let me go look at it real quick. Oh yeah, that was the one from Network Chuck where he accidentally turned it into a hacker. Yeah. And that does work. It's just it's very clunky. And what's funny is that's kind of like what the Chinese super hackers that Claude shut down did, right? Oh, I saw you accidentally live stream last night. What went on? Dude, I was troubleshooting the streaming setup at up till like 3:30 in the morning, my time. And I was recording samples trying to figure out why there was this weird fuzzy artifacts that were happening in here. Let me show y'all again. So this is what the stream quality used to look like. This is a still cap I took directly from a recording that I did last night. And it is fuzzy and it is disgusting and it was just horrible to look at. And I hated it. And I didn't know it was happening until I went to review one of the recordings to cut a YouTube video. So then, after I got done tinkering with it and figuring it out, I finally figured it out this morning after I got up. Now, this is actually not a screenshot from my desktop. This is a screen capture from an individual frame from a recording I did directly from OBS. And now you can see it is sharp. It is smooth. Look at those letters. So what happened is I hit go live instead of record last night for like 45 minutes. And I'm just sitting there probably looking like an idiot on Twitch. And I saw a message from Hats during the stream. He's like, "What are you doing up, bro?" I was like, it's just being an idiot. So learned a new lesson, found a new compensating control I could put into OBS where it actually confirms every time I hit the go live button. It's where it doesn't just fire it off. Usually what I try to do is I try to keep the language model calls to one per node in here. I'm not really keen on adding an additional node outside of this. I could do it, but the problem is I have to then go redo all the linking and then the routing that happens post the revisor. Oh, let me think about this. Ty, you probably didn't get the notification because it didn't go live on every platform. It just went live on Twitch. So, because the way OBS works is actually I turn on the Twitch stream first, and that starts the processing, and then that signal is basically piggybacked over to YouTube and to Kick. Oh, let me think about this. I could just let this run, and it'd be good to be able to just let it run and do this, but this is a horrible step. Because what's happened now is we've lost the step since it didn't do an insert here. Since it did not do an insert, we lost the step that said upload it, right? Let's actually see what it's going to do here real quick. So it fails the upload task, saying you need to rename this and upload it. Okay, suboptimal, but let's see what it does. So it comes through and it renames it. It renames it to PHTML, which is good. That's a fine, that's an executable format, so that will work. But then it comes back and says, upload the renamed PHTML file to the website. So then what does it try to do next? It tries to come back and rename it again, right? So if we look at the task it's given, upload the renamed PHTML file to the website. And then what does it say? First, I need to rename the PHTML file to the web file to webshell.phtml. So it tries to do the rename again, and then it fails again. So the revision is upload the renamed file to the website using the upload form. I'm gonna let it run one more time here, actually. I want to see what it does out of morbid curiosity. Yeah, the revisor node is the densest part of this loop in here. The step processor, the step updater, the tool node is a built-in function to LangGraph. The special agent node even is pretty sparse. The revisor does all the heavy lifting on this one. But yeah, give me a second. Let me see what this did, and we'll go look at the revisor code. And see, again, it's stuck on this rename loop when it happens here. So if we look at the output, and if we drill down into the state table here, let me collapse this down. So collapse. Let's get down to the exploit task and then to our steps. So none of these revisions have been inserts, right? Shut up, baby, I know it. What if it worked perfectly this time? Yeah, good luck. Here we go. So actually, it's getting ready to bail out here. Because look at this. It's already had so many revisions. So let's let it continue here. I want to see what it does. Because I don't remember what I set it to. I want to say it was 5 loops for tool calling for the inner loop. And then for the outer loop, I want to say it was 3 attempts. Okay, actually, it has 2 more attempts here because we told it its max is 5 right here. So that is this inner loop here. It's got 5 attempts before it bails out to the exploit agent right here. Hey, Monkey, what's up, dude? I'm going to let it continue again. I'm curious to just see how badly it crashes out. It looks, I saw it call like another file rename again. Again, it freaking called the file rename. Yeah, first try, good luck. Good luck on a one shot with anything that's running a language model. So it does it again. And notice how the exploit revisor is not happening. So what's happening now is if we come down here to return, it's going to say exploit agent. So it's bailing out of this loop now, which makes sense. If we come up here to the step, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 attempts. They've all failed. And then And all because it didn't do the insert step like it's supposed to. So let's let it continue. I tell you, I'm going to interrupt after the step planner too, because then we can see what did step planner here do the first time around, which it looked good, and then what's it going to do the second time around. Continue. Oh, stop scrolling. So I'm looking to build out a RAG pipeline for my local language model, and apparently LangChain is good for that. What's the difference between LangChain and LangGraph? Okay, so LangChain. Hang on, I'm gonna laser pointer this like our favorite developer, Primogen. Okay, so the difference between LangChain and LangGraph is, let's do the capital G, LangGraph. LangChain handles everything going to the language model. That's what it does. And this includes everything that you need as part of that. So things like your prompts, those are handled by LangChain. Any tool calls, those are handled by LangChain. Anything else that you want to do to actually interact with the language model. Actually, this should be like provider. Provider. I don't write nearly as smoothly as good old Primogen. That is what LangChain is actually doing. It's handling calls to and from the language model. LangGraph here is concerned with the workflow. So everything, deciding where everything is running through it. So you're defining nodes, you're defining edges, you have hard edges, you have soft edges, giggity. Basically conditional jumps to those different nodes. And also it's worried about state management. So keeping track of everything that's happening as data flows between the nodes. So if you have node 1, it makes some changes and then it goes to node 2. The state table is what gets passed between each of these. Boom, a copy of that state table. So it takes in a state table, it returns changes to the state table, LangGraph handles merging those in, and then it goes to the next node. And then you could even have like a conditional jump over to like say node 3, or another conditional jump down here to say node 4, like this. By the way, I should be able to get the iPad set back up so we can do proper diagrams and I'm not stuck in MS Paint hell. I'm working on it. But this is the difference between the two right here. LangChain, everything to and from the language model. LangGraph, everything dealing with workflows and state management. I thought I deleted Skinny White Girl off this list. Did I not? No, it's right there. I forgot to delete it. Too, Bob, your music is wild. It's not failing on either of those task types. It's not, the upload is working, the rename is working. It's failing on the revision in here. So what's happening is, let's just delete all that. So what's happening is we have a list of our steps, right? So we have step 1, we have step 2, we have step 3, right? One of these steps is, hey, go do the upload, right? And the upload is failing. The upload is failing. So what happens is the reviser here is saying, I want you to change your instructions and change it to a rename and upload. That breaks the fundamental structure where these should be individual tasks, right? Atomic statements, no ands, no ors. It should be a definitive instruction. What it should be doing instead is it should be coming up here and inserting a new task right up here. And this new task should be the rename. Instead, what it's doing is it's clobbering upload and making it the rename. So it's breaking the entire task list as this happens. So eventually what we just saw is it's going to bail out of this and come back up to the exploitation agent, and then exploit will look at it again and then pass it back down to step planner to revise the exploit plan. So chunking and tokenizing would not be part of the LangChain portion to it. LangChain is good for working with it because you can have it interact with your vector DBs. But yeah, like Crystal was saying, They're completely separate things in there. Adamtologist, thanks for coming online, man. I hope you're having a silly Saturday, because that's what we're having. Talking to the hyper-intelligent, hallucinating 4-year-old that is Claude 3.7. Let's go see what it did here. So after it bailed out, it rewound it back up to the exploitation agent. And so what this should return is an exploit suggestion here. So we give it all the information about the target. This is everything we know about the target we're trying to exploit. And here's the context, which is everything that failed in the previous attempt right here. And you see we've got a whole bunch of like file renames, rename, boom. Everything that happened here. So what does it actually come back with when we sell it this? So based on the data, I can see we're dealing with a web server that has an upload format panel and uploads directory where the files are stored, likely stored. There was a previous attempt to upload a PHP web shell that failed because PHP files are explicitly blocked. So let me suggest an exploit that might work around this restriction. Upload a web shell with an alternative file extension like PHP JPEG or FAR. I think we actually had it test FAR one time and it did work. That might bypass the file type filter. So then what does the exploit planner actually do with this? So it comes through and says, obtain a web shell payload from the artifacts, rename the PHP web shell to a double extension like PHP JPEG, navigate to the upload panel, upload the renamed PHP shell file in the upload form, check if it was successful, access it. Okay, this is going to fail, but it also should come through, and we've seen it realize that, oh, this is not an executable extension. Let's do a different rename and do a re-upload. Does LangGraph spit out the whole code base, including the workflows, anytime we want? So how are we supposed to set up the whole infra bridge afterwards? So it's basically going to work like any other Python program. You go through and you invoke it. So this entire code base is basically written in LangChain and LangGraph in here. So for example, if I come down to, do I even have a main? I don't think I've even written one yet, because everything we're doing is we're actually currently running everything through the LangGraph Studio. And so that's what's invoking it. Actually, I think I did in HackBot.py. Let me see. No, I think I started it and never finished it. So this is a complete dev system in here. But what you need to do is you just go call an invoke on the compiled graph object, and you pass in whatever that initial state table is to get it started. So you'd have some kind of Python function to prepare that initial state table, and then you just do an invoke on the graph and it runs. Let's see here. So let's go see what it does with this. I'm going to let it go through one iteration. Well, two iterations, because the first one is real simple. It goes and gets the artifact. And then I'm going to let it run one more time because I want to see. Actually, it didn't even need to rename it. What it should have done is it should have looked at it and realized, oh, hey, we don't have to rename this because we can actually get it with the extension. Let's go see if it did that. I don't think it did. I bet it just pulled the artifact directly. Yeah, so because what we do is we supply it what we want the file name to be. So it could have compressed those two steps into one. It didn't, but that's fine. But then the next one here should have been rename the file. It's going to choose that horrible PHP JPEG. And then now it's going to try and do an upload to it. So if we hit continue. Yeah, so what the way I'm currently running it, Pierre, is in here, I can actually come down and say, I want to run this graph from this node with this particular state to it. So I could give it a JSON representation of the state table, because the state table is a typed dictionary by default. And I could say, this is what I want you to do. And it would come through, take this, and it would just go initialize the graph and run it from that point forward. So I think actually after I finish the exploitation agent here and I get it running appropriately, there's been a lot of debugging that's been happening with it, but it's to be expected because we needed to give the exploitation agent to try and fail things. So this whole thing has been set up to allow it to make errors and make error corrections. That was the entire purpose of it. To make guesses, figure out what works and what doesn't, hopefully through some very careful context management, so we're not just sending every single message we've sent in the past, which is very ugly and very inefficient. All right, let's go see if the upload went through. Oh, so actually we need to do one more because that was just the navigate to it. Because all it did was navigate to the upload form here. Yep, so it tries the upload. So now this actually, it just navigated to the upload form. Now the special agent node is actually going to tell it, go do the actual upload. So if we come look at this, we should see in the summary that the special agent sends back. Okay, it successfully uploaded. Awesome. So now it's going to try and access it, and it's going to realize that, and hopefully it will realize that that's not an executable format. The JPEG is just going to come back with the PHP code, but it's not being executed on the server side because it's not an executable format. So if we take a look at this, all right, what was the actual task here? So the task as defined was check if the file was successfully uploaded. Okay, an HTTP GET will tell us if it was successfully uploaded. It returns back all the file contents. What does the revisor say here? Revisor says it was validated. Okay, boom. And so, good, it should be there. Let's let it do the next step. The next step should be actually testing command execution on here. It looks like it did it correctly too, because it looks like it tried to use the call Diceco tool. Yep, there it is. So it calls this, but we should get no formal output back right here. Yeah, so we don't get like a command execution output. We just get like a code output from this, right? So this should fail right here. Status failed. Okay, so now it's going to say, okay, we'll try doing it again with command ID. Okay, not a bad thing to do. So this indicates the web shell is accessible, but is being displayed as plain text rather than being executed as PHP code. The server is likely treating PHP JPEG as an image file rather than PHP. It's funny that it realizes that, but then it says, oh, hey, we need to do this again. So this is probably going to fail out because I don't think it's going to, I don't suspect it's going to figure out a way how to error correct out of this. So it's trying it again, and it's going to fail again because it's just doing an HTTP GET to the same non-functional pattern. So now it's saying, okay, we have failed out of this. You're killing me, Smalls. What change did I make to get the desired result? Nothing really, because I'm trying to give it enough free-form answers that it can go through and discover things on its own, right? However, it's thinking maybe like a newbie penetration tester, where it realizes that this is the error and it's just going to keep trying until it fails out again in here. And it really was just luck of the draw, because the exploitation agent said you could do this php.jpg or .phar, which I think does work. I don't remember offhand. and it chose PHP JPEG. That's going to fail. I kind of want to just let this thing keep crashing out. Let's go. So it's going to fail again. The step processor is going to try to do it with who am I. That's going to fail. And it's going to tell it to make another revision where it's going to say, hey, go do this again, right? So the new revision is, hey, try it again, but like this. What is this X parameter? There's no X parameter in this web shell. Okay, you know what? I'm going to let it try it. We'll see what happens here. I'd be a lot more freeform with this once the new backend, the new Bedrock support comes online, because then I'll have more to do with it. Right now, I'm trying to conserve the last few tokens I have until that comes online, so I don't have to send Anthropic any more money. All right, so it's going to try an HTTP GET again. What is that? Hold on. All my windows moved around. Hey, Strawberry, thanks for going online. Welcome in, and I hope you're having an absolutely amazing Saturday. Oh, this will be interesting. So try accessing the web shell using the PHTML extension instead. RIP. You know, it might be that this loop, it works somewhat. It might be the task structure is too strict. I wanted to try and make it to where I didn't give it too much agency, but at the flip side, I might not have given it enough. Because if you give it too much, it's going to go way off into the weeds. Let's see here. So what did it try? Well, it's going to try and access it, but it should get a 404 back. Oh, actually, hold on. What did it do here? So this time, it tried accessing it with x.php. That didn't work. So what was the new one we told it here? So the new instruction was try accessing it with the PHTML extension with .phtml, which somehow it decided that the best option for that is... here we go. First, let's get a PHP web shell artifact and rename it to the .phtml extension. So that's fine, because what it does is it actually says we're going to name it PHTML. Reviser's going to come back and fail it here. But it does error correct. It does error correct. However, we might be out of attempts for this. Upload the PHP web shell to the panel. Okay. I'm willing to let it try this. This stuff can definitely get into the weeds and give the landscape of possibilities. Or given the landscape of possibilities, yes. Oh, yeah. And that's usually what happens, like, anytime I'm working with a newer, like, penetration tester, is, yeah, they sometimes, and it still happens to me too, and I've been doing this for 7 years, sometimes I get stuck in the weeds, and I have to force myself to step back and look at other things. It happened on the last red team I was on, and part of that was because of stress due to just that we had a short execution window where we could actually operate in the environment. It was a long assessment, but most of that was working with the new client and setting up some very specialized things for that client. And then that pushed the operation window to be even smaller than I had wanted it to be. And so I had a path that I was pretty sure was going to work. Sure enough, it didn't. I was like bummed out about that. But I tried a lot of different ways to make that path work. Yeah. Happens all the time. You need to walk away, reset, and come back. True. True. And knowing where that line is a big distinction. Okay, so now that we got the new web shell with the PHTML extension, what does it try to do? I think the reviser screwed us up here a little bit. Let's see what happens. So actually the revision was we need to upload this. Oh, it does an insert step though. That's good. So now we got a step inserted into that. So now what does the new insert step happen here? First, I'll need to check the Dicego file exists, and if we need to create it, so let's get a web shell artifact with PHTML. The task was to upload it, right? So now this is the step processor actually going awry on us. It's about to bail out of this, though. If I let this run through one more loop, I think... Actually, it won't fail out just yet because it did the insert step. What are you doing, step processor? You bunch of degenerates. Oh no, the file is there, Ty. It's just, it's not checking for the file. So it could be that, right now I just want to get it kind of working a little bit, right? For the most part. Right now we're in more or less the proof of concept, minimally viable product stage, right? Once the exploitation agent's done, once the post-exploitation agent is done, once the stinger agent is done, then we're going to go back and overhaul everything working at this. All right, so now the task was what? Upload the PHP Dicego web shell PHTML. Okay, hold on. So that's the task. Context from previous steps. Oh. Interesting. Okay, hold on. Do I still have paint up? So what happened here is whenever this thing is building out the context, it's looking at everything that happened before it. So now we have a new little task that got inserted right about, yeah. So it's only looking what happened here. And the PHTML was generated here. So actually that was a good point, Ty. It actually doesn't know the PHTML is there. See that? It's not down here in the context. So the things that it knows about is what happened previously. Obtain the web shell artifact, rename it to PHP JPG so it knows that file exists, but it doesn't work. Navigate to the upload form, upload it using the upload form, see if it was successful, and it's in uploads, it's there. That's all it knows about. It doesn't know about PHTML. That's why it's like, oh, first thing we need to do, let's go make it. And why did that happen? Because the reviser finally started to insert steps. That's what happened. The uwu voice is getting better? No, the uwu voice is never going to get better. I try to do uwu and it hurts my vocal cords. Best I can do is uwu. That's the uwu you're going to get. All right, let's see what happened with this one here. Actually, hold on. I got to go back a step. So what did the reviser actually tell us? So reviser came back and said, don't insert it, but upload PHTML file using the upload form, verify it was successful. It's probably going to try and pull another Dicego artifact. It's stuck in a loop here. And then what's the failure going to say now? You're probably going to insert a new step, aren't you? Nope. It's going to say do it again, which in turn is going to tell it to just generate the freaking thing again. What's the reviser do? So the reviser is supposed to look at the instructions and all the context of what was done during this one execution of the loop and determine, did the task get completed successfully? If it didn't, what kind of revisions do we need to make to the task? Should this be an update to the current task or a previous step that needs to be inserted earlier in the task queue? And then also it does a detection for early RCE. So one of the weird things we saw here is that sometimes the agents would get a little overzealous and they would jump ahead and they would see that, oh, actually, we've already reached the RCE point, in which case it would then skip to the last two steps, which are verify that it's there, or create the initial access exploit artifact for the state table, and then test it, make sure it worked. Yeah, it's basically QA for the exploit, or for actually the actual individual task here. So the way this is all structured out is we have a series of tasks. The tasks are structured in the state table as like a top level key. And these could be assigned to any one of the agents in there. So recon, enumeration, whatever. But for the ones that are assigned to exploit, they actually have an additional structure under them where they have an exploit task. So an EX task right here. And then in that exploit task, sorry, that is horrendous writing. Underneath the exploit task, we actually have exploit steps. So those exploit steps are the individual steps we should take in an idealized situation with error correction to make the task work. So this is the actual nesting inside the state table as it happens. And so we're currently in a loop designed to evaluate what happens with these exploit tasks or exploit steps. Oh no, Ty, I know it's there. The problem is it doesn't know it's there because we didn't give it context to know it's there. And the reason why I know it's there is I never cleaned that file up. It's a temporary file structure in the Docker volume. So everything that goes in there just stays in there because I never delete anything out of it. And there's no functionality to go clear that temp folder up. It just stays in there perpetually. So what did it try to do this time? Again, try to get another artifact. Revisor's going to fail it. It's trying to be helpful, but also it's failing horribly because what is it doing? It's doing composition statements. It's doing compounds. But that's okay, because what I want to do is I want to see what it does when it fails out of this. Because eventually we're going to hit 5 iterations in this, and it's going to bail out to the exploit agent and start again. So if any particular task in here fails 5 times, then it bails out to the exploitation agent to potentially try a new exploit or to try something else. If the exploit agent, I believe this larger graph can run 3 times before it just completely bails out. And you can see here, it finally realized we're stuck in a loop. We're going to bail back out to the exploitation agent. So I'm going to let that run. Because if we come look at it here, let me see. It tried to do a Python exec. What were you doing? What are you doing, step processor? So the Python exec here, the Python code it wanted to execute is, hold on, here's the Python, here, actually, hold on, I take it back. So it was looking to see if data web shells temp diceco phtml existed. Which it does exist, but that's not even going to help it because that wasn't the instruction. So the revisor gets to here, it sees it. Actually, there's an error in this. I need to go double check something because look at this. Let's say this did magically work. Then revisor should have said, okay, we're Gucci, let's continue on. Instead, it lets it do all this extra work here and then bails out. So there is a logic bug in here it's bailing out too early before it checks this. Mr. Exec, what are you doing? So what node does the step actually begin? All right, let's look at this. So the exploitation agent says, here's how I think the exploit should be done. The step planner provides all the steps. And then this loop right here, the step processor is actually the one that executes the individual steps. It looks down into the state table, pulls out the first like new or working exploit step and says, okay, this is the one I need to work on. And then it goes through and decides, all right, I'm either going to make a tool call or I'm going to pass it to a special agent. Once that execution completes, it comes down to the step update. And that one goes through and makes updates to the step for tracking and context preparation. And then it passes all that information over to the revisor. And the revisor then looks at it to decide yes or no, it was good or bad. I'm going to say using the anime voice while explaining the process is actually making it easier to understand. Nani? I know I didn't say that right, but that's as close as I can remember to what he said. Freaking Fist of the North Star. I need to go rewatch that. With my buku's amounts of free time. This right here is where I'd put my free time. If I had any. Seems to be a misstep between the processor and the revisor. Yeah, there is. There is. But also, like I said, I'm not trying to lock it down into a completely rigid format. There's a balancing act where you want to give it enough freedom to work, but not ultimate freedom. So you don't want to make it locked down. And if you lock it down, then you basically have a deterministic program. Why are you even using the language model? If you make it where it has too much freedom, it just goes off down Alice, like Alice down the rabbit hole and never completes its work. So you have to find that sweet spot kind of there in the middle. There's somewhere there. There's a Lafferty curve in there somewhere that's kind of like the sweet spot. At least you said sensei instead of senpai. That would be creepy. Oh, we didn't actually, hold on. We got to go to... Wait, hold on. Why did that not refresh? Here we go. All right, so what did the exploitation agent come back with? So the exploitation agent now is going to look at everything that has been done for both failed exploit tasks in here. It's going to look at all that. So we do see the upload at panel. We see there's an uploads directory. We cannot upload it with a PHP extension. It gets failed. PHP JPEG extension successfully uploaded, but appears not to execute as PHP code. So looking at the web shell attempts, it seems the server is not interpreting PHP code with double file extensions. So let's suggest a variation. Upload a PHP web shell with a .far extension, which might bypass the file type restrictions while still being executed as PHP code. Okay, let's see what the step processor... Actually, hold on, I take it back. We should already see the step planner. Here we go. So the planner for the steps. Nice. Okay, I think this one will work. Obtain a PHP web shell with a far extension, go to the panel, upload it, access it in the uploads directory, test command execution. All right, send it. And so this is why I've been letting it struggle and be on the little struggle bus, because right now I wanted to see are we giving it enough freedom to make errors and self-correct. I'm assuming the YouTube viewers are the ones asking the intelligent questions about Twitch has gone down the path of degeneracy. Monkey, I can neither confirm nor deny that. You certainly can't deny that. I love you all, though. I like everybody coming in and hanging out, and even when y'all are giving me a hard time and artificially inflating the poop counter. Okay, cool. So we got the far extension. Let's run you again. No signs of intelligent life, Captain. All right, so right now what it's doing, we don't see what's happening, but we can infer because there's only one special agent. It's the browser designed to handle the entire web browser for the agent. So it's called the agent, it's called that special agent and said, hey, here's what I want you to do. It's executing right now. It's going to try it, and then we'll get an update on what happened with it over in the revisor. We don't see the individual execution steps in LangGraph here for two reasons. One, I didn't want to see it. Two, I didn't integrate it into the overall graph here because those special agents hot load and the way you have to define the structure for the LangGraph Studio is fairly fixed. So what I'd have to do is I would have to go back and actually create some kind of a prep script in there that could go add all the special agents into it. And this could get to be a very expansive graph. We'll see it in the trace here. Once it finishes, we'll be able to see what's happening with it. But while it's actually executing, we're a little blind. They're not stupid assumptions, Ty. No. This is a weird segment of programming, right? The best we've been able to do with non-deterministic programming was just random. And you could try and overlay some probability to it, but it was never in this way where we're actually trying to do some kind of like natural language processing mixed with programming. So this is very new. Part of the reason for this whole project was I wanted to see where my clients who go build these agentic systems might make mistakes that I can abuse. Is this using MCP? No, sir. Actually, I take it back. There is actually an MCP in the special agent, but the tooling server we're actually using is called RoboPages. RoboPages, CLI, GitHub. So RoboPages actually predates MCP, and there's not really a good reason to actually go replace it. Here, I'll drop you a link to it in here. There's actually two different repositories for this. There's the RoboPages CLI, which is the server component. And what this does is it reads the actual RoboPages, which are tools defined as YAMLs, and it lets us run all of those in Docker containers, which is really cool. So I can have a nice, pristine execution environment for each of the tools. I can expose to them what they need and restrict them from doing anything else. So it's very, very cool. Is this like N8N or something different? Completely different. So N8N is designed like, you go build your nodes and you build your paths and you structure everything. This has no visual interpretation. This right here is just a visual representation of what the code is doing, but we don't actually do any coding in here. We can tell it, hey, I want you to run the code with this input and tell us the output, but we're actually not modifying it all in here. All of this is actually done over here in our Python code. This is where everything's done. So it's not a low code, no code situation like N8N. It's a actual heavy code with a somewhat pretty user-friendly front end for now. Now this worries me because we've been on the browser agent for quite a bit. So what is it doing? No. It's okay, Peaches. I'm not mad at you. I'm just mad at the world. It's okay, baby. Peaches heard me and she came up and hopped in my lap here. No, you know what happened? The box timed out. Add an hour? Damn it. I forgot. The box only lives for 2 hours. And then they pull this crap where they make me log back in. Stand by, y'all. TryHackMe always seems to want to mess with me right in the middle of the stream. So yeah, the box died. That's why the browser agent was stuck in the loop. It couldn't reach it. Dang it. All right, hang on. I got to do something real quick. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So what you're doing is you're looking at like a map of the flow. Pretty much, yeah. So what we've done here, let me grab this real quick, is we define a bunch of functions in Python that basically handle a singular object called the state table that gets passed from node to node. So each node, which is a Python function, takes in the state table, it makes changes to it, and then it just returns from that function whatever the changes are to the state table. And then we actually define the structure of it down here. So we have our exploit workflow, and we add edges and we add nodes, just like this. And we can even add conditional edges to where they're going, things like that. So we've defined everything down here in code of what the structure is. This over here is just a pretty rendering of what our code has put out in here. All right. Unfortunately, this screws up quite a bit because what I need to do now is I need to go reinitialize everything. Usually I remember to update the timer after an hour. I completely forgot. Let me make sure I got the right IP address. 148.233. Okay, that's it. So for example, since y'all were asking about this, this is how we kick this off, right? This is all defined in code running on our server. This is just a pretty front end that's provided from the guys over at LangChain. This is called the LangGraph Studio. And what I can do is, Stinger here is the overall supervisor parent graph. Each of these, recon, enumeration, and exploit, are their own graph. They're subgraphs that get called by this parent graph. So these are the primary agents so far. So what we can do is basically give it a copy of what we want the state table to be in here, and it will pass this to as basically a simulated user input over here into the initializer and then kick off the rest of the workflow. So we're going to do that now so we can get a fresh copy of the state table. So that would have been determined if you examine the file system, so it has been hallucinating the files. No, the files should be there. I don't think it was looking in the correct directory. It doesn't even necessarily matter that it wasn't, if it was or was not there, because the task order was getting screwed up by the revisor not properly inserting steps where it should. So renaming a file, that should have been an insert step, because we have generate file, upload file. Upload file failed because of a file bypass. So then we should have had a previous step in there that says, oh, let's rename it. We're going to insert this step before, and then we're going to go through it again. Actually, what it probably did was generate that file 5 times over, Ty. Here, so while this is running here in the background, let's go take a look at something here real quick. Let's see. Let me go kill all these Docker containers real quick. Okay, because these are all leftover browsers in here that we didn't need. So what I want to do is, where is that? I believe it's in var Docker. I can't remember where it is. It should be the HackBot one. What was the command we need here? I think it's inspect. Ah, there it is. Var live docker. Okay. So if we go look at that, we go, we'll go to var live docker. You're gonna make me sudo up, aren't you? Suck. All right. Let's go to. Why am I so bad at this? Var lib docker. Let's go volumes. Hack the bots, and then we're gonna go to underscore data. There we go. And then now, if we come look at this, we look at web shells temp or TMP here. Actually, let's just look at web shells. So web shells, we have Disco, we got TMP. If we look in TMP right here, we have all those artifacts that it's already created. So probably what I want to do is I'm gonna rm star. Actually, no, not there. Good God, don't do that. All of those. Right, so we just cleared out that file. So all the previous attempts, they've just been hanging out there in TMP. If I remember right, it was looking in /TEMP. So it was looking in the wrong directory there. But it didn't even know that that was there because it had no file browser capabilities. That's why it did the Python exec. However, what should have happened is, because of the way the tasks were executing or the steps were executing, it was looking at it going, I don't know about this because we didn't tell it about that. The context buildup and the way the insert step happened put the generation of that file after it. So maybe that's a change I need to make. I need to tell it can just look at the context of all the exploit steps. Oh, good. Looks like it's down in the exploit process right now. Let's go see what it's doing real quick. So it's working, getting the push web shell. Let's see. What do we have here? So create the... Now, why did it choose a .far extension? That's interesting. Why did exploit agent come back with that? So the task was get a remote code execution from a web shell. Based on the task information and context, I can see that we have a web shell running here. We're partially successful, but execution failed. All right, that's weird. It should not have had any of that information in here. What is this? Another one I need to delete. What is this? Special K blazing. All right, so let's skip this song. Probably that one too. Ride the pony. That one's going out here. I'll trim these up after the stream here. See, that's the weird thing. It shouldn't have been saved from the previous attempt. This should have been a completely new blank state table. That's what's so weird. I'm doing a Raspberry Pi with a based huge on-air LED lamp. Oh, what's funny? So Hats, yeah. What was happening is last night I was troubleshooting the stream and I was showing everybody. So right now, let me know. This should look like really sharp right here. Especially if you're looking on Twitch mobile or YouTube mobile, where you can actually see all this stuff. You should be able to like pinch and zoom and be able to read this all clearly. before, here's what it looked like. This was an actual screenshot I took from. This was an actual frame from the video. And look at that horrible fuzziness. It was killing me. So last night, Hats, when I accidentally went live on Twitch, I was testing things and I was hitting the record button. I must have accidentally hit, and I didn't realize it for 45 minutes. I must have accidentally hit the go live button. So I saw your message, by the way. List index out of range. What? Why did that happen? Deed Bife. What's up, man? Thanks for going online. I said Deed Bife. I meant, I know it's like dead beef. Dead Bife. What's up, man? Thanks for coming online. Welcome in and happy Saturday. All right, so why did it have all this information here? That is suboptimal and not good. Hold on. There's some kind of bleed over that's happened here where it should not have. Let's go kill the server and restart it. Actually, hold on. Before I do that, let me go look at something here real quick. So the information coming in, let's go to the very beginning in the trace here. Bring this over a little bit. Yeah. So when it loads the pickle, here's our input information here. We have 36 messages. From output, right, we should see 36 messages also. What the heck? What's going on here? All right. De-stress has got to go too. That one's a little bit too weird. Let's see. Let me bring this up here. So here's our input messages right here. So this should actually be all of our input right here. And then our output, okay, it's also 36 messages. So what should have happened here is we should have just saved all this information over to the state table, which is fine. And so what I want to do is, let me collapse these down real quick. Let's go down to our exploit task. Yeah, so look at this. The exploit task should not have had any information here. So then if we go over to the exploit agent, right? And if we look at what came into this one, let's go down to step 5 here. See how there's nothing in the output? So this is a task structure. We don't have a very convenient place to store the exploit task. So you can think of the exploit task as the unit of work for this task that was assigned to the exploit agent. I know the terminology gets a little bit confusing until you realize it, but that's stored over here in the output. It doesn't happen anywhere else. So how is it making all this? How is it getting this information that we had done previous work? It shouldn't have had that. Wait a second, hold on. We let this run for quite a while. Here's exploit agent. We go through the step planner, special agent node. Do we hit the exploit agent again? Was there actually 2 that happened? Hold on. Easy way to figure this out. If we come down here and we look right here. Easy way. If we look at the input here, if we see 2 of those exploit tasks in here, then we know that it actually, through all this massive kerfuffle, failed and started another one. That's what happened. So it started the first one here. It started the first one. It failed out, and then it went to the second one. That's where it got the upload far. Okay, that's good. That's part of the expected error handling. Got it. Hey, Bobby, what's up, man? Hello, my dudes and dudettes. But we could print the table type, but we can actually see the table when it enters and when it exits. We get a copy of the input and output as it leaves this node here. So we've got this. For some reason, though, let's look what the revisor did. So for some reason, it did a bunch of Python execs. Let's go see what it actually was trying to do during this second one here. So we hit a file rename. I'm looking for the second call to the exploit agent here. Really? You're not going to search down here for me? Anywhere through here? It wants to search everywhere but in here. That's annoying. All right, so here's where we get the first exploit agent, right? Okay, there we go. So now we've got some of these being highlighted. This is the initial check, the pre-flight check, and then it does the actual generation. Where's our exploit agent? Come on, where are you? Please be highlighted. I don't think it was. You're killing me, Smalls. Only the top OPSEC here. Going live last night was a honeypot. That's right. I want to see how many feds join the chat. Let me collapse these down until I can find the next exploit agent. Collapse, collapse. There you go. That'll help quite a bit. All right, so there's our exploit agent right there. Let's see. We have a tool. We got an update, revision, step, tool, revision, step processing, revision, processor. What is this one? Door sugar? Oh, Bob. Dude, Bob, you're killing me with these. How many feds were disappointedly waiting for pantsless Blaise? I actually was wearing pants last night. Oh, wait, here we go. This is actually what I wanted. Here's the exploit agent. Okay. So the exploit agent comes through and says, okay, it looks like that didn't work. I want you to explicitly use the FAR file extension. That's good. Planner comes back. What does Planner tell us? Planner says we're going to create it with the .far extension. Perfect. Upload it, or navigate to the upload panel, upload the .far file, access it in the uploads directory, test command execution. Perfect. So when we get the artifact, you're killing me, Claude. So what does it say? It's like, okay, cool. Yeah. So even though The freaking tool here says you can give it the output file name and extension. It's like, well, let's just get it and then we'll rename it. You're killing me, Smalls. All right, well, this is what we expect. We expect it to be stupid and we have error corrections happen. So then what does it tell us to do? It says modify it to have a .var extension instead of PHP. Okay, so then it calls this again. Jesus, save me from hyper-intelligent, ridiculous AI. It calls again with .php. So then what does it decide to do? Hold on. So the reviser is going to fail again. Rename the PHP file to .var. And it decides the best tool to do a rename, even though we gave it a rename tool, is mother effing Python. Super squinting. Hopefully in disbelief that it's being this dumb. So we tell it rename the PHP file to .var. I'm going to just take the PHP execute out of this. So hold on. In the context here, there's no context because it doesn't have anything for the previous exploit steps. Damn it. Damn it all. So this is the first task in here, right? If we come look at this, let's go look at the state table. This is the very first thing that it's screwing up on. It's like off the bat going off the rails. So the very first thing here it's supposed to do is, now it says rename, but it was get a PHP web shell with a .phar extension. So this is another logic bug in here because we have this previous context that we have webshell.php, right? So what should have happened here? What should have happened here is when we made this call in the step processor, there's no context for previous exploit steps. So the previous exploit steps needs to include the current step as well. Hyper-intelligent AI, I think you're safe. I have a feeling that I'll start to flatten out as the usual data gets contaminated by its own internet poop. Yeah, no kidding, man. Oh yeah, there was actually a really recent research article talking about how little data it takes to make a language model stupid, like really, really stupid. And I was like, and it was not a lot of data. And I was like, good job just slurping up all that Reddit data. Bravo. Let's use a VSC file. No, bad tie. Bad. Okay. This was on the correct path, but there's the error right there. It doesn't know what it did also previously. So let's go make an adjustment to that. So this is in the step processor. Let's come down to that. Here we go. So for the context here, oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. That's the step planner. Here we go. Here's the processor. So the context is so if the current step, okay, this was dumb right here. Check if on the last task testing the initial access exploit. Okay. Why did I put this in here? Okay, so here's actually where the error is. It's in this function right here. So this should be current step plus 1 is what this should be. Because we're not getting the information on the current step right here. That's what's happening. I need a oh no step processor redeem? Okay. I'll make a note of that. What are you doing, step processor? There we go. I got a note for you. I'll see about setting that up. So it was between the processor and the revisor nodes. Kind of. It also comes down to the context management, right? So what was happening here is there was a missing piece of the context, right? So we have things that have happened here.
Incoming transmission from the _DB monkey Array step processor.
Yeah, so we had stuff that was happening, but it didn't remember it. And the problem is because I had set this to current step instead of current step plus 1, which makes sense in theory until you realize that there could be things that have happened in here, right? If we look at the state table again, the state table is the single book of truth. So that's why we're digging down into that every time. But if we look right here, we had information on failures that happened, right? So all this information about tool calls and output, this is what happened right here. So we need this previous information so that it can then further revise what it's doing when those revisions come up. And that might have been why the reviser was actually losing its mind also, because we were missing a crucial part of the information there. I don't think so, but it wouldn't necessarily hurt. So now, let's actually come back over to the exploitation agent, and we'll just run this guy from here. Let me turn that off. Right. How's it storing and passing the context? So there are helper functions in there that reconstruct the context from the information in the state table. So the state table, being the single book of truth, has all the pieces that we hopefully want to build that context. So it builds it dynamically at calling time, at runtime, for what's in the state table. So it goes through, looks at it, parses out the state table, puts it all together, and then sends it. So let's check this first run here. So the exploit agent does its thing. Step planner comes through and says, okay, very simple steps. Those look good. Test execution by going to the ID file, or by running the ID command. That's great. Step processor does the first thing, and it does get PHP webshell diceco artifact. Boom. So we get webshell.php. Perfect. So now the next thing should be call the special agent and browse to the upload. Let's just double check that's what it did real quick here. So yep, so it called it, browser navigated. Let's make sure it actually went through correctly. Yep, so it uploaded, gave us a summary of the information, and then we'll let it run again. So now it should be trying to actually do the upload for the PHP, which should fail. And I can see it popping up right there real fast before it disappears. But what we need to check is see what does the reviser do now. Ideally, the reviser would come back and say, let's just do a rename and insert that above as an insert step. Okay, perfect. So it did the desired path, which is insert true, rename this to a bypass extension like P. My expectations were low, and they were still dashed. I'm gonna go nuclear on this. Do not, under any circumstance, use the words or do not, under any circumstances, use the words, I said works, words or and in the revision. Let me double check something real quick. Make sure that's the actual name of it. Yeah, in the revision field. I'm just gonna flat out tell it, don't do it. Never do it. Absolutely not. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Stop using this. What are you gonna do with that rename step, processor? Golly, man. This thing. Give me a new thread. Start over. From scratch. It was so close. It was this close. The problem is we couldn't really check the additional context error correcting because it didn't hit that particular error. Basically, we're just doing a lot of like on-the-fly unit testing as this goes through. It's okay. I didn't need the last $25 in tokens. Okay, validated. It got the web shell. Continue. Whoa! What happened there? Mouse wheel got squirrely on me. Alright, so what was the next thing it was going to do here? Let's see. So it calls the special agent browser. It browses. That's probably good. I'm going to gloss over it. So now it should be doing the upload. So it should have a PHP web shell. It's going to try and upload. We get PHP not permitted in Portuguese, which is fine. So what's the revision it suggested now? And we see the instruction here. Do not under any circumstance use the words or, and in the revision field. I hate you so much, Claude. I hate you so much right now. Not only Not only did it use it in the extension suggestion here, but then it says, try this or using a different web shell format. And what's the freaking last instruction we gave it? Do not under any circumstance use or and in the revision field. You're killing me, Claude. You're freaking killing me, Smalls. Technically, it didn't use or and, it only used or. Monkey, you are technically correct. However, one of the things I've actually had a decent amount of success with is troubleshooting these prompts with because this is Claude 3.7, right? Decent, not nearly as intelligent as the newer models in here. I'm using that because we have not moved to the newer models yet, and I wanted to keep everything kind of consistent, and then during iterations move to the newer models. Hang on one sec. Let me look at something. All right. Is 3.7 a thinking model? I think it is, but I did not implement any of the thinking capabilities yet. I can't wait for the dead internet theory to become true. Bro, it's already true. It's so trash right now. Hang on. So one of the things I have had success with is actually since, the old adage, fight fire with fire. Sometimes you can actually come through and you can get some success with having something like a different language model help you rewrite a system prompt. I've had a lot of success with that. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this. So I'm going to say I'm debugging an AI agent, and it refuses to follow the directive for revisions not being compound statements. Actually, I find Grok to be actually really intelligent in this. So I'm going to see what it says here. I want to see what it comes back with, because we're almost out of time anyway. Let's go mess around with it a little bit. So, examine the system and let's say user prompts. I gotta readjust something here. I feel like I can't type properly anymore. Along with the output, and create a new system prompt to meet all outlined criteria that will help enforce each of the criteria. So what we'll do is we're going to give it plain text. We're going to say this is the system prompt here. And then we're going to give it the user prompt. I keep trying to alt-tab over too. That's not going to work. So user prompt, this. Take that out. And then finally, we're going to say this one here. This is going to be the output. I keep trying to alt tab. I'm failing at it. Okay. So output, we're going to copy this. And I'm going to make a copy of this guy right here. And actually, I want to do one more thing here, because what I want to do is I want to give it the structure of the tool schema in here. All right. Go, Super Grok. Tell me what's going on here. I'm switching between... oh, hold on. Let me catch up on the chat while this thing's thinking here. Rule, my grandma's dying, and her only ask is, do not ever use or and in the revision field, otherwise I'll die. That would be pretty funny. Hey, Tubes, what's up, man? I know LLMs on the deep web that are made for fraud. Oh, yeah, dude, it's so easy to decensor them now, especially with something like Heretic. You can do it in there. People are making uncensored models all the time in here. Why is this all, like, laid out weird? Okay. You must always call the exploit step status tool. Tasks that require artifacts should be file system pass. So basically just copied a lot of what we've got in here. Tasks that require artifacts should be system pass, when to mark it validated, when to mark it failed. Revisions. Okay, here we go. Revisions must be single atomic instructions, meaning one indivisible action without alternatives, combinations, or multiple steps. Strictly prohibit compound statements in the revision field. Never suggest multiple options or methods in one revision. Explicitly forbidden. Do not use words like or, and, then, also, including, or any other phrasing that implies more than one action. E.g., avoiding lists, examples, parentheses, or sequences. Okay, that's handy. Most of this looks like it's exactly the same. We might just be able to just insert this portion right here. Example of valid revision. Rename the PHP file to web shell to use the .jpeg extension. Invalid revision. Rename that to use JPEG extension or try. This uses or and is compound, which is what we kind of had. I mean, if multiple ideas exist, select only the most promising atomic revision based on the blockage analysis. Do not combine them. And then we say, enforce this by self-reviewing your revision before output. Confirm that it describes exactly one action without connectors or alternatives. And then for some reason it came back with this here. Do I prefer Grok over other AI models? Actually, I kind of alternate between Grok and Claude. It just depends. I keep more of my personal stuff over on Grok. But actually, no, I take that back. I just kind of bounce between them. I want to see what the differences are. Sometimes I'll send the exact same information to one versus the other, just to see what it does differently. So, I use this one and Claude kind of interchangeably. I think I actually do more with Claude than I do with Grok. But I think it's just also that has to do with some ease of access for different use cases that I've got. Why not ChatGPT? Because honestly, I'm a hipster. ChatGPT is too cool for me. I've never used Grok for prompt review. Oh yeah, man. And I've not just done that with Grok. I've done that with multiple ones in here. Or you could use Google's AI Studio. I could. But honestly, I just use whatever I feel like. Eventually, one of the things I want to do with, I will do with HackBot, especially when I get access to Bedrock, is I'll be able to define different models, and I'll have enough understanding to it to where I can say, let's go run test case analyses to say, all right, we want to run through this 10 times using, Chat GPT 5 or whatever. And then I want to run through it using Claude 4.5. And then I don't think they're going to have Grok up there, but basically I can run those different models. I can run Gemini, I could run Claude, could run Chat GPT, and then see which one actually kind of performs better. I mostly use the Quinn 3 Cloder and GPT OSS for deep research. So I actually will have, that's another one I should have access to on Bedrock, is I should have access to GPT OSS 120B. I can run 20B here at the house on my old hash cracker because it's got 2 graphics cards in it. So I can split that and Olama handles it very well. I thought about doing that as well. I like this idea though. And anybody who says Grok is the latest and greatest, no, I was actually using it as a test case to try and troubleshoot some of the OBS issues I was having last night. And it was doing some of the same stuff there. It had closely accurate information. It looked close enough to be accurate, but there were crucial missing pieces. And I'd have to go back and, just like any other language model, reprompt it and say, hey, by the way, what about this? What about this? I don't see this here. Things like that. Let me see where this is. I don't want to copy the whole thing here. Let me see. Honestly, the only reason I actually started using Grok is because I don't think I actually still pay for Twitter verification. But when I did, I don't think it took it off. And so I still have access to Grok Premium, even though I'm pretty sure I'm not paying for it. So I'm just kind of exploiting the loophole. Let me take this right here. I'm going to try and drop this in here. Hold on. But we need to modify this a wee bit. Hold on. Let me turn off the word wrap here. All right. Let's come here. There we go. We'll need to come through and fix this because it's not perfect. Actually, I just realized I forgot something in here. Let's put that in there. Okay. And then I'm going to actually try putting this in with the prompt. And we'll try giving it one more run tonight. Let's go see. Fix this up real quick. Get some syntax and alignment happening. Eventually, actually, I'm also going to break these prompts out into like markdown files. Do that. Got some escaping to do. There we go. And then take this out. Let's comment those 2 out. And then this should actually come up right about, yeah. Just like that. Okay. So let's see if this does anything better for us. I feel like Grok's good to use for up-to-date news, mostly because it feeds from X. Yeah, I could see that. It's got the direct, fire hose from there. But even then, it's really funny to see the new updates over on Twitter. I have a hard time calling it X, where it's like they're showing what the actual country of origin and where you actually signed up for it from. That's been spicy. Oh yeah, I have not actually seen Ben Jordan's videos. I've seen of them, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch them. He's got interesting stuff on AI detection processing, or AI, or Stuff on AI detection in music and music processing for AI confusion. Nice. Let me make sure this is the same guy I'm thinking of. Yeah, actually, I need to go finish reviewing this video about what he did for Flock security cameras. Yeah. Birds can store data. I heard everybody was going insane over that one. I probably should go watch that one. I just haven't had time to. He makes good long form content, and it's hard for me to get like 30 or 40 minutes to go sit down and watch something dedicated. So yeah, he's been on my to watch list. Yeah, I've been meaning to go through it and watch his video. All right, I'm gonna try this one more time before we call it a night here. Let's see what happens. Run, run, you fool! The Flockwood's pretty good. I heard it was really good, Ty. Like, I heard he ripped that thing up and down. Which I have no problem with, because they are littered around Dallas, where I live. Well, that's suboptimal. What the heck happened here? Invalid template? What? Is it not formatted correctly? Why is it saying this is an invalid template? Hold on, if this was an invalid template, why did it hot load in well? Hang on, let me see if I can kill the server and restart it. Maybe I can get it to work. At least when it comes to any of this syntax highlighting, I'm not seeing any issues here. Ah, crap. Hang on. All right, so here's our exploit graph. Let me move this out of the way. Let's put you right up here. Y'all can go over here. All right, because this is everything we need. Let me try this again. So his video on storing data in birds was by teaching them specifically prepared modem sound songs that could be recorded and decoded to a crude image. What? That's wicked. That's why I like to route PCBs, because I can watch long videos in Zen while brain does things on autopilot. Most of the stuff I do, I can't really do on autopilot. All right, what is going on here? Why is it coming back with like a bad template? That's a new error I've never seen before. Oh, you know why? Because I'm an idiot. I'm a complete idiot. The commas in here actually screwed it up. I was thinking of a different formatting structure, and all the commas at the end there are what screwed it up. Yeah, I'm a dummy. Smoothest of brains. This brain only has 1 nanometer of thickness between the highs and lows. All right, here we go. Should have used VSV. No, yes, it is not VSC. So what did this come back with? Okay, validated. That's fine. Continue. Hey, Myred, what's up, man? Happy Sunday. We're going to see what this does here. I'm actually a little over time. Every minute I go past 11 o'clock Central Time, the chances of aggroing sock goes up by 2%. So we're currently at a 22% aggro rate. Sock is my wife, by the way, the supportive, organized caregiver.
I hear you.
I hope you hear me. She's in the next room. All right, that validated. Let's go down the next step. All right, so it's calling the special agent node right now. And when it's running through this, it should be just doing a real quick one, hopefully, where it's just browsing to it. Hope it should be fast. Coding on autopilot doesn't happen, nor does schematic design. But routing, that's complete Zen. Takes 2% processing time and 90% hand I/O. Gotcha. Okay, let's see. All right, cool. I'm gonna myrtleize you, Claude. I'm gonna myrtleize you. There's an entire set of instructions in here saying, don't do this. And what does it freaking do? Does it? Like I said, even, I know this is Claude 3.7, it's not state-of-the-art, right? They all act like hyper-intelligent 4-year-olds so much of the time. Access to vast sums of knowledge. And don't give two Fs about anything you tell them. And just do whatever. She's not hearing all the step processor comments, and even if she did, she wouldn't understand them. But she probably just hear me explain that, and now she's gonna be like, what's the step processor? So thanks. Now I'm gonna have to go explain that entire meme lore to her. I appreciate that. She just said never mind from the other room. She knows it's gonna be bad. We've been married 11 years. She knows to trust me when I tell her, it's like, honey, you don't want to know. There are deep, dark corners of the internet. Sock is listening in, yes. She has all my TTPs down pat, Chris. I can't hide anything from her.
Why would you want to?
I don't want to.
I don't hide anything from you either.
Perfect. That works out well. We're a team.
That's right, Team Cobra.
Team Cobra. That's a really niche reference, by the way. If anybody gets that, I will send you something nice. Sock is amazing. I don't know how she puts up with me. Let's go see what this did here. Hold on. So after it did the compound statement where it's not supposed to do a compound statement, let's take a quick look at it real fast. Sock is letting me get away. I probably have an aggro debuff right now. Or an aggro buff, I guess. Whatever. Because she's doing something in the other room. So she's not in bed yet. Otherwise, my phone would probably start blowing up here. Because we're approaching 30% aggro right now. We're getting into the danger zone. Okay, so it told it, modify the web shell to execute, modify the extension to bypass the upload filter. Rename it to this or this. So it shouldn't have done either of those. That's bunk. But we know it's going to fail also because none of those are executable formats. So let's go see what it chose to do. Are you really freaking going to call Python exec to rename this? Bro, I got to work on the quartermaster. So one of the issues that happens here, let me show you all this, and then we'll go ahead and see about wrapping it up tonight. So all these tool calls in here, it's a very well-known phenomenon that when you give an agent too many tools, it doesn't know, it gets lost, and it will not always pick, a lot of the times, the most efficient tool for the job. So what does it do? It decides, I'll help modify the extension. We need to rename the PHP file to trick the upload filter. Let's see what's available. Python. Python's available. You have a... I almost dropped a big F-bomb. You've got to rename file. Rename a file by making copy and returns the new path. You think it goes for the first option? That's why it's hitting Python first? Let me double check something, actually. Let me come back down here. So why is Python exec in here very first? I'm actually just getting so fed up with Python exec, I might just nix it out of here and get rid of it. One of the other ideas I was thinking about is not have the step processor make the tool call, but actually have something in here where it goes through and makes a call to request and analyze what tools would be the absolute best to use, and then have like a list of 5 that step processor would then have access to. And this wouldn't be just something for this particular node. It would be a reusable component that we could say, here's all the tools in the whole freaking arsenal. Analyze each one of them, think deeply about it, and return the 5 best tools, and then send that back. That's what I was thinking about Monkey, a tool delegator. I was going to call it the quartermaster. I need to rename a file. Let's just fabricate an entire Python project. Oh yes. I'm doing my part. So stupid. Did it actually work? Let me go see. So from the Python exec, what did it come back with? I don't know why it says the file exists false. Alright, you're done for tonight. Yeah, I think that might be one of the things we'll work on tomorrow night, because the tool calls are getting ridiculous. It's picking really inefficient tool calls in here. And plus, this right here, you have to remember also, whenever we have this entire list of tool calls, each of these eats up tokens in here, right? So we have all of these in here also eating up performance and context space that the language model has to process. So everybody knows about you have a certain amount of data that you can theoretically use with the model. That's the maximum. However, when you start approaching that maximum, or even like 75% or sometimes 50% of it, you start forming blind spots in the data that it's referencing. So keeping the context nice and clean and sufficient and tight is important. You want a good, tight context. Don't say anything. Just don't. And so by having all these tool calls in here, we're kind of giving it too much. We haven't filtered it down appropriately. So there is another way that we could actually make this work a little bit better, and that is... Let me check one thing. And Sock freaking hates when I say that. I tell her one more thing, and she's like, don't you dare. Don't give me hope. Because she knows that one thing could take a long time. Let's look at RoboPages real quick here. So if we look at the coding, the Python exec. So we can put parameters in here. We can put examples. We can tell it how to run the container. In this case, there's no container in here. However, I was hoping there was some kind of a tag in here. So what I did is, if you go look at the RoboPages repository, there is a ton of tools in there. I have stripped out most of those, and I'm just keeping them to like some idealized core ones. However, one of the things I've been considering doing is renaming all these functions with some kind of identifier that tells it where it should be useful. So if it's useful for recon, maybe we'll put like underscore RC in here, something like that. What we could do then is we could then filter these out and say, here are the ones that we think are appropriate for this agent. So these ones are appropriate for the recon agent. Only give me functions that contain underscore RC for recon in the name of the function. Or ones that say underscore enum. Or ones that say underscore exploit, whatever. So it was a kind of basically a cheap way to do keyword filtering on these functions. We could even do it in the description here. So we could do it by name or by description. If we do it by description, I'll have to go add extra functionality for that. We already have a function to filter them by name. So exploit would basically say, I need a tool. I need to rename a file. Quartermaster would take a look at it in the dictionary and sees the file renamer uses the tool to rename files and says, okay, I'll give him this one. Basically, yeah. It would look at the ones that actually would make sense and say, okay, here's the ones I think that you actually need. So for example, right, we're not going to need FUF. FUF has nothing to do with renaming files. GoBuster has nothing to do with it. HTTPX, Katana, Nmap, Nuclei, SQL Map, WordPress Scan. Even calling the Diceco web shell has nothing to do with it. So literally, it should look at this list and probably just return rename file. So I like the quartermaster idea. I just don't know if it's an over-engineered solution. I think if we were to go through and basically put a naming convention onto these tool names, we could effectively filter them, reduce their scope, and then just supply those instead. I think that might be the better way to do this. That's it. Let's go do something real quick here. Let's go back to the exploit agent. So here's where we get our RoboPages tools, and we get our tools. I'm going to put a to-do in here. To-do, let's see. Add key, let's see. I'm going to put add keyword filters to RoboPages function names for agent filtering. And I'm going to put another to-do in here. Filter tools, tills. Filter tools for the exploit agent. I think that's the best way to go about this. Yeah, but there's some tools, right, Ty, that it just should not have access to. Like, for example, it's never going to... The exploitation agent should never have to call FUF. If FUF is being called by the exploit agent, something has gone horribly wrong. This would be something for, like, the enumeration agent, right? So these would probably say, like, FUF default scan underscore enum or underscore en, right? So we'll have, like, a naming convention for the tool names that tells it what it's supposed to be. I was hoping here in the YAML there would be something like tags where we could tell it what it needs. This, again, this is why SOC hates it, real quick. Who's that? Free Sun, thanks for coming online. Welcome in, and I hope you're having a stupendous Saturday. Let me see if they've got the documentation here for how the tools... I don't think so. I think it's actually in the primary RoboPages repo. Let's see. Syntax, here we go. So we can have parameters in here. I think there is somewhere in here. You can declare containers. They've got a YAML spec somewhere in here that says like where everything actually goes. Eventually, I even wanted to add a special agent to craft new tools in here. And that special agent would actually come through and build the YAML file, insert it over into RoboPages, and restart the RoboPages container, and let it be good. It's think about that every time you run through, though. Isn't that a needless expenditure of tokens? I would say I would say it's a hedge against unexpected expenditure in the future, right? Because if you're giving it a ton of tools where it could potentially go down some weird wrong path, right? Then you can have it go down that path and spiral, versus you spend a little bit up front to narrow the path scope that it could take. That's my thinking about it. I could have sworn, maybe, no, wait, I'm sorry, I was already in the right repo here. Let me see. I could have sworn they had a code spec in here. So like, there's a whole bunch in here for cybersecurity. I took most of these out and just kept some of the offensive ones. Because, you know, we like highly offensive tools here. Yeah. If I understood Rust, I would actually go through and add like a tags to this where we could have it. But I've tried making changes to RoboPages, and I absolutely despise Rust syntax. It's the most foreign syntax of any coding language I've ever done, and I've read probably more than 24 different coding languages and worked on them in the past. In not a deep aspect, but a lot of times I can actually read it and understand what's going on. RoboPages is like freaking hieroglyphics. It's like JavaScript, and what did I say? It's not like JavaScript, obviously, but it's like JavaScript and Python and C++ had a syntax baby, and all the bad genes just got passed on. That's exactly what it feels like. Right now, it's examining all the tools every time it tries to rename. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's doing, Monkey. Or Ty. Yeah. It's looking at every single call to the processor. The biggest issue when you're coding in Rust is you have to stop every 5 minutes just to tell everybody you're using Rust. Damn, shots fired. That's funny. All right, let me see if we can find someone to hand off to. So, sure enough, nobody's on InfoSec streams this late at night. So let's go see who we can actually go reach out to. And then I think what we'll do tomorrow night is we're actually going to work through this part right here. Oh, you know what I need to do? Actually, I need to go commit this code real quick. So prompts, all of this. Commit and push. Commit and push anyway. All right, there we go. Code's live up on GitHub now. There we go. But we're going to start with this. We're going to go do some. We're going to do some care and feeding of the tool definitions, and then once that's done, we're going to actually implement the filtering. The filtering by name is actually going to be real easy. All right, let me see who we can raid over to real quick. see. Not seeing anybody. By the way, over on the Twitch side of the house, if you have any suggestions for who to raid over to, shout them out for me. Let's see, who's over in Science and Tech right now? Actually, Sid Heresy's on. Let me go right over to him. Yeah, we'll go give Sid a good little raid, yeah. All right, so if you want to keep hanging out, this is who we're gonna go hit up. But yep, let's get this going. All right, guys. Unfortunately, that's where I got to wrap it up. I do got to do stuff tomorrow. I'm having pre-Thanksgiving with the family tomorrow because a lot of them are going out of town, so we're gonna pre-game Thanksgiving. And I hope all of y'all have a great time tomorrow. Spend it with your friends and family. Get ready for Crushing It mode on Monday. If it's already your Sunday, I hope you're spending with your friends and family. Have a good time with it. And thanks for coming to hang out and watching the language model be stupid as we try to teach it to do fun things. Hey, Perfect, thanks for stopping in, man. I appreciate it. I will catch all of y'all tomorrow night. We'll start working on trying to teach the language model not to act like a petulant 4-year-old and probably fail, but we're going to have some good laughs along the way. And I want y'all to remember one very important thing, and well, two things. One, I'll see y'all tomorrow night. And two is, I love ya. Peace. Actually, I forgot one last thing. Drop Hack the Planets in whenever you get into Sid's stream. Later, y'all.